Today we're doing Module 5, Lesson 16. The objective is to place whole number fractions and fractions between whole numbers on the number line. Materials needed for today are your online whiteboard or your whiteboard dry erase marker and dry eraser. You can get your fraction strips out, but we won't need them today. The teaching style we're going to follow is where I do it, we do it together, and you do it on your own. So first you can see I have a number line here. And it says graph 3/4 on the number line. So now we don't have to figure out what fraction has a point on it. Now we have to make that point ourselves. So a little bit different than what we've been doing. So the fraction is 3/4. My number line is broken into 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is my denominator. I need to plot a point at the third spot, which is our numerator, and that will be graphing 3/4 on the number line. So I'm going to start at 0, count 1, 2, 3, and I plot my point, or I graph right there, and that represents the fraction 3/4. Okay, let's go ahead and have you try one with me. First, I need you to make this number line. Okay, so you just need a long arrow going across your whiteboard. You're going to make a mark towards the beginning and label it 0, a mark towards the end, label it 1. And now we're graphing 2/3. So our denominator tells us we need 3 pieces, okay? To break it into 3 pieces, we're going to make one line here and one line here. So we actually only need to make 2 lines, because when we make that second line, it splits it into piece 2 and 3, okay? So the first line makes our first piece, the second line makes piece 2 and 3 at the same time. I'm going to give you just a moment to get that number line ready, and then we're going to graph 2/3. Okay, so now we need to graph 2/3. We're going to look at our top number, which is 2. So on your number line, we need to make 1, 2 hops, draw a point, and that is the point 2/3. Okay, go ahead and erase your whiteboards. I'm going to do another example for you. So this one I want you to make sure that you're watching, because this is something new. This says graph 3/4 on the number line. But you can see that this number line does start at 0, but it does not end at 1. We can see over here they have the fraction 6/4, which we haven't really seen fractions like that. So let's kind of take a look at what's going on. If we label each of these pieces, okay, here we're at 0, right? We have 0 pieces out of 4, okay? Because our denominator in 3/4 is a 4. Our denominator doesn't change, which means our number line is broken into 4ths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep labeling. This would be 1 piece out of 4, or 1/4. This would be 2 pieces out of 4, which is 2/4. This would be 3 pieces out of 4, which is 3/4. And actually 3/4 is what I need to graph. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to plot my point right there. And I could be done, but I'm going to kind of show you how this plays out. If we keep going, next would be 4 pieces out of 4. If we have all 4 pieces out of 4 pieces altogether, this is the same as having 1 whole. So at this point right here is actually where our 1 whole is. And if we start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see it takes 4 jumps to get there, which is our denominator. Now, if we were to keep going on the number line, we would start getting fractions that are greater than 1 whole. So if we kept going, right after 4 comes 5. Our denominator stays the same because our number line is still broken into fourths. So that would be like 5/4, and then 6/4, and then 7/4, and then 8/4. Okay? So we will work on these bigger fractions more down the road. But for right now, you might see them pop up, but you still need to figure out how to graph your fraction correctly. Okay? So our numerator is 3, so it still takes us 1, 2, 3 jumps to get to our point, and that's where we graph our point. I know that's kind of a lot to take in today. Let's go ahead and try one together. So what I need you to do is I need you to draw this number line. I'm going to give you a little extra time. So make the big number line going all the way across your board. Put a line at the beginning, which is 0. A line at the end. And then you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lines throughout. You can go ahead and label this 4/3, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth line, which is why the numerator is a 4. So go ahead and get that all labeled. Get that number line ready. And then once that is ready, we are going to graph 2/3 on the number line. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do first, now that you have that number line drawn, is we're just going to label it. So where our 0 is, that's actually like having 0 pieces out of 3. Our denominator is 3, and it's going to stay 3 because the fraction strip's broken into thirds. So let's just keep labeling. After 0 comes 1/3. Next is 2/3. Notice that our numerator is going up 1 each time, and that's because we're going up 1 more line each time. So next would be 3/3. They already did 4/3 for us. Next is 5/3. And then 6/3. Okay, so 3/3, well, if we have all 3 pieces out of 3, that's like having 1 whole. So that's the same as 1 whole. We just need to graph 2/3. So we're looking at the 2 on the top, which means we need to make 2 jumps and plot our point. I'm going to give you just a moment to plot a point at 2/3. Okay, so to find 2/3, you could have looked at what we already labeled, or you could have started at 0 and made 1, 2 jumps, plot a point. We've now graphed the fraction 2/3. Okay, go ahead and erase those whiteboards. Let's take a look at what you're doing for homework today. Homework today is IXL Skill V18, graph fractions on number lines. So you'll see here it says graph 1/6 on the number line. So we would make 1 jump. And that gets us to 1/6. So on IXL, I believe you just need to click and it should put the dot where you want it. Go ahead and begin.